I'm now with Steve Harris, the chairman of the Motorcycling Club. Good afternoon, Steve, and welcome to the Classic Motor Show 2025.
Good afternoon, Graham, and welcome to you too.
Now, we have a little bit of a talk about some of the cars. Can we start off with the orange one here, please?
The orange one is a car called a Troll. Now, Troll were a range of 21 cars made, the brainchild of a gentleman called Peter James, who was a jeweller in Minehead. Peter developed the cars from scratch as a modern-day trials car. This was during the 1980s, of course, so used a lot of 1980s mini bits and things like that. And they gradually developed. He had Ford engines in them, 4 powertrains, and he ultimately made only 21 before he sadly died. Now, whilst this was going on, he outsourced the chassis to another firm, and sadly he died before those chassis were built into proper cars. So the orange car that you see here utilises one of those lost chassis which we unearthed, and there's a gentleman by the name of Tom Jones, who's an agricultural engineer by trade, but works out of a workshop down in Brent Knoll in Somerset, and he then has taken this car and put it into the state that it is at the moment, which is, to all intents and purposes, a classic state-of-the-art trials car. So it's got almost an 1800 2-litre engine. We don't know the full specs at the moment. It's running on fuel injection now, and we're estimating that it's going to be putting out about 180 brake horsepower in something that weighs just 600 kilos. So as a car that climbs and scampers up hills, the Troll name, which was originally a nickname, was just spot on. And I hope that Peter James, if he's up there now, will look down on us and say, do you know what, I really enjoyed that, that's good. A modern iteration of his brainchild.
So can I just ask you now a little bit of history about the club, how it got formed? Because it was predominantly for motorcycle racing, wasn't it?
It was called the Motorcycling Club back in 1901 when motorcycles was simply not invented. These gentlemen came along with engines that they put into cycle frames, and the term motorcycle was coined. And then they were obviously well-heeled gentlemen in those days to have such an apparition. And then a few of them got together in London, and they had a wager that they couldn't get from London to Edinburgh and back. And they did that, and it wasn't a race, they just had to do it within 24 hours with really primitive lighting, things like that, and that's how it all started. Now that progressed up towards the Second World War. Coming in the 30s was the heyday really, with manufacturers like MG, with Cecil Kimber. You've got the Austin Sevens with the Grasshopper Trials team. Was a real fascinating era of history. Second World War came, people come back from the war, with petrol rationing and everything else that went on, it became difficult, and people were very much aware that engineering had progressed. A lot of innovations came from the wartime, and the sport, kind of when petrol came back into being, the sport they changed. Yeah. And then you had the one-site trials, and then you had what is now known as classic trials, which utilised a lot of road work as well. So fast forward now to where we are, we still use a lot of the hills as tests on the event, and we start usually around tea time from various places, and we run through the night at 1-minute intervals to climb up these hills, and then we usually end the Land's End. It used to end at Land's End. The club now own a section of the Blue Hills Mine Company down there, and the last section we have is climbing up the side of the Atlantic coast on this really steep climb towards the top for all the people that are watching and coming to watch down there. And it's been going like that for so many years. It is part of West Country folklore. And I think it's fascinating that a length and breadth of history. Yeah. Families now get involved. A lot of vehicles are passed from grandfather to father to son, and so we go on. And we are the only club at the moment that cater for motorcycles, sidecars, and cars all in one event, which takes a bit of organising, but we get there in the end. But ultimately, it's all about enjoyment and having a bit of fun. Safe competition, and really just running the same hills that you did with your granddad all those years ago.
So can we just talk a bit about this car now?
This is the Dellow.
This is quite a rare car, the Dellow. I've been looking to try and find one to film for some time now.
They're quite rare. The Dellows, of course, were an amalgamation by Delling and Lowe years ago, post-war, who got together in the 50s and 60s to say, this is what we're going to do with these. They used early Ford engines in a space frame chassis, and they were very, very successful at doing what they did. And nowadays, of course, people have got a lot bigger. We're a lot taller these days than we were years ago. But generally speaking, this one on the left still runs its 1172cc side valve engine, but it's got a supercharger on it. So it puts out a reasonable amount of power. It can keep up with a lot of modern cars on the road and still runs on cross-ply tyres. So it's very true to the ethos and very successful.
What about the rest of the cars? I mean, you've got quite a selection here. Are these the cars that run up the hills then, are they?
Yeah, very much so. We cater for pretty much any range of vehicle to go in there. There's currently a problem with three-wheelers, like the Reliant Robins, but that's from an insurance perspective more than ever. The one on the left over here, that's what we would call a Volkswagen Rail, and that is basically a space frame car with the engine out the back. But now the gentleman that's here, Sam, he's changed that Volkswagen engine to a Ford engine, a four-cylinder engine. And as you can see, it's been painted by David Hockney in particular. It's a car that's lived a life. You move along to the Blue Beetle here now, and this is a 1600 Beetle that has been competing now for around 45 years, we think. It's been through several families and several iterations, but essentially it's doing very well, thank you very much. And we're constantly surprised by people that the owner's here today, young Paul, and he was saying that whenever he's taken to shows, he's always afraid of people coming up and telling him how he's ruined it. But today he's really surprised because a lot of people have come up and are genuinely interested in it. So the one that we have in the middle here, the silver MX-5, is probably the modern cheap sports car version of entering the sport. So for not much money, you can just lift the suspension by a couple of inches with spacers and come out and enjoy
and away you go.
Away you go, yeah. So we wanted a range, and I think we've got a range. It's our first time at the show.
I was just going to say, that's probably why I've never seen you before.
We've never met before, have we? But we wanted to just come out and just fly a flag and say, look, we still do this. And, after all these years, I mean, it's our 125th anniversary year next year. So we're hoping to come back next year with a lot more famous cars and perhaps a bigger stand. But
I look forward to that.
Yeah, but we wanted to just really fly a flag and let people know who we are. And if anybody does want to come out and compete, then just get in touch with us. It's cheap enough to do. It's grassroots motorsport for all, and you'll just have a whale of a time. You'll be shattered, but you'll have a whale of a time.
Whale of a time. It'll get you fit.
Exactly. 2, 3 or 4 wheels.
Well, thanks, Steve, for the interview and the information, and I hope you come back next year with more cars.
Yeah, very nice. Well, very nice to meet you, and thank you for doing it as well.
And you, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Thanks.
Bye-bye.